This is Kara. Kara is a college student that commutes to campus from her off-campus house. As we approach the winter months, putting on a hat is becoming an important step of her routine when leaving for campus. In this video, I will be analyzing the movements involved in putting on a winter hat. The action starts with the stance phase. The stance phase can be observed when Kara is sitting on the stool, holding the hat with the hands in a static position. In the stance phase, the muscles of the upper extremity are preparing to generate force needed to complete the action. The next phase is the preparatory phase. This phase is seen when Kara begins to move the hat toward her head. The muscles in both upper extremities are prepared to generate the force needed to pull the hat down. The next phase is known as the movement phase. The movement phase is the main action phase of the movement. In this phase, Kara pulls the hat down onto her head, generating enough force to pull the hat over her ears. The muscle of the upper extremity are actively engaged to accelerate the hat onto the head. Once the movement phase is completed, Kara moves into the follow-through phase. In this phase, Kara releases her grasp on the hat and begins to lower her arms to her sides. The muscles in her arms are decelerating and preparing for relaxation. The follow-through phase can be observed in this clip right before Kara assumes a comfortable position with her hands resting on her lap. The recovery phase is the last phase of the action. In the recovery phase, Kara's arms return to her lap, assuming a comfortable position in which her muscles have achieved relaxation. In the stance phase, Kara is seated on a stool in which her erector spinae muscles are firing to maintain her posture and balance on a stool as it is lacking a back support. In addition, Kara is slightly laterally flexing the trunk to the left. Her neck is flexed in order to look at the hat. Her right and left shoulders are in slight flexion as well as full adduction. In addition, both the right and left shoulders are in slight internal rotation to grab the hat on her lap. Both the right and left elbow joints are flexed to a 45-degree angle. Both the right and left forearms are in full pronation in order to grasp the hat. The right and left wrists are extended, with the left wrist demonstrating more extension than the right. Both wrists also demonstrate radial deviation, however greater in the left than in the right. In both the right and left hands, the MP, DIP, and PIP joints are flexed in digits 2 through 5, allowing for the grip on the hat. In addition, the thumb on both the right and left hand are in slight palmar abduction at the CMC joint, with slight flexion at the MP and IP joints. Kara is demonstrating a hook grip on the hat within this phase. Moving into the preparatory phase, the neck is still flexed at the beginning of the phase while the right and left forearm moves toward a neutral position, still with more pronation than supination. The right wrist returns toward a neutral position, still with slight extension, while the left wrist gains extension. Fingers are still flexed at the MP, PIP, and DIP joints on digits 2 through 5 on both the right and left hands. Thumbs are still in slightly palmarly abducted at CMC joints, as well as slight flexion of both the MP and IP joints, maintaining the hook grip on the hat. Maintaining this grip, both the right and left shoulders increase in flexion while also abducting, noting more abduction on the right shoulder than on the left. The glenohumeral joints externally rotate, with right experiencing more external rotation than the left. Elbow flexion increases in both right and left extremities in order to bring the hat toward the head. The forearms move through neutral into a more supinated position. Wrist extension increases as the hat is brought toward the head, with ulnar deviation in both the right and left wrists. PIP, MP, and DIP flexion of digits 2 through 5 increases in both the right and left hands, and thumb position remains the same. During the movement phase, the shoulders remain flexed and abducted as they were in the preparatory phase. Throughout this phase, Kara brings her head up so she's looking straight ahead, causing slight neck extension. As Kara pulls the hat onto her head, the shoulders slightly increase in flexion as well as significantly increase in external rotation, with the right still showing more external rotation than the left. Elbow flexion increases in order to pull the hat down over her ears. The forearm of both the right and left extremities move into a more supinated position. The wrists of both the right and left extremities increase in extension while moving into significant radial deviation to move the hat down over her ears. The flexion increases in the MP, PIP, and DIP joints of digits 2 through 5 on the right and left hand. The fifth digit on the right hand begins to straighten out, extending the PIP and DIP of the small finger, while the MP remains flexed. The thumb remains in slight palmar abduction as well as some opposition to hold and manipulate the hat. Next, in the follow-through phase, the flexion in Kara's MPs, PIPs, and DIP joints on digits 2 through 5 in both the right and left hands slightly decrease, allowing for Kara to release the grasp she has on the hat. In addition, at the CMC joint of the thumb, Kara increases in palmar abduction in both the right and left hands, releasing the grasp on the hat. Once releasing the grasp of the hat, Kara begins to decrease in elbow flexion and shoulder flexion on both the right and left sides. In addition, the shoulder on both right and left sides internally rotate. Lastly, the forearms on both the left and right extremities move into pronation as the shoulder and elbow flexion decreases. The power in her muscles decelerates and prepares for relaxation. In the recovery phase, the shoulders decrease in flexion as well as increase in internal rotation on the right and left extremities. The elbows on both the right and left extremities decrease in flexion so the forearm can rest on the legs. However, the left elbow is slightly more flexed than the right. The forearms continue to pronate. The right arm reaches full pronation. The left forearm moves into pronation but doesn't reach full pronation. The right wrist is in a neutral position between flexion and extension, and the left wrist is extended. Both the right and left wrists are in radial deviation, allowing for the hands to rest in a comfortable position that is crossed. The fingers are in extension at the MP, PIP, and DIP joints of the right hand in digits 2 through 5, however, abducted at the MP joints. The thumb of the right hand cannot be observed, however, it is in full radial adduction. The MPs are flexed in the left hand, digits 2 through 5, with slight PIP flexion and DIP extension in digits 2 through 5. The thumb of the left hand is radially adducted with slight flexion at MP and IP joints.